So sorry because the video has been paused. So I'm making this next video and continuing the previous video. So we were discussing about the term goods, and in this you will find we were discussing the inclusive point that it includes stocks and shares. So stocks and shares are included, and on this point you will find that this definition of sale of goods, it is wider in comparison to English definition of goods, because English definition of goods you will find this stocks and shares are not included, and under Indian Sale of Goods Act they are specifically included under this term goods. For the growing crops, grass, things attached to or forming part of land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale. Now again you will find this, that if things which are forming a part of land, that means things which are attached to earth, but if they are agreed to be severed before the contract of sale, then those things which are attached to earth and they were once an immovable property, if they are agreed to be severed before the contract of sale, then those things acquire the nature of they acquire the nature of movable property, and they are included in the term movable property. Likewise, if someone is selling the trees is immovable property, but during the in the contract it is expressed or by way of implied words, you can ascertain the intention of the parties, that parties have intended to cut the trees before the contract of sale. Then in such a situation you will find that those goods or those trees, they acquire or they can be included in the term goods. In the same manner, likewise I have given the example in the previous lecture that the door when attached to the wall becomes a immovable property if it is for the permanent beneficial enjoyment of the house. And if under the contract of sale, if the door is to be severed from the wall and then only it is to be sold under the contract, then that is a contract of sale of movable goods. So then that door acquires the nature of movable property. In the same manner, there is a difference between standing timber and timber tree also, because standing timber is attached to earth. Because you will find that standing timber on the land, it is to be severed from the land. Standing timber we are referring to those trees which have acquired the age and are fit to be used for the timber. So before every contract of sale, if contract of sale of standing timber, it is agreed by the parties that standing timber is to be severed from the land and then only it is to be sold, then that is a movable property. But timber tree we are referring those trees which draw nourishment from the soil, and nourishment for a number of years. So that means if a contract, because generally you will find in a number of cases that if it is for the cutting of tree, or maybe cutting of timber tree, if it is for the cutting of timber tree also for a long period of time, then that contract is generally regarded as immovable property, because the trees will draw nourishment for a continuous number of years. So that is why the difference between standing timber and timber tree is there, and in standing timber, if it is agreed to be severed, then that is included in the definition of goods under section 27. And that is what you will also find in the case of Shantabai versus State of Bombay, year 1958, Supreme Court 532. In the same manner, you will find that the situation is regarding the water, oil, gas, air, because air is also sold under compressed form. And if minerals also, if they are severed from the soil, they are goods. If they are within the soil, they are immutable property. Further, the right to take the, now I am saying that right to take out the mineral, right to take out the water. These you will find again, they are granted by the landowner as an interest, then that is not a sale of goods. That is a sale of immovable property. And this you will find in this case of Mahadev versus State of Bombay. That Supreme Court itself has said, Supreme Court has said that the contract by which things forming part of soil itself, such as coal or other minerals or gravel or sand, may be removed by the buyer, they are not contract of sale of goods. And those contracts will fall under the purview of Transfer of Property Act 1882. Further, the case of electricity and mechanical energy also, because that is also held to be a good. Lottery tickets are also held to be goods. In the same manner, animals regarding domestic animals, they are goods. But wild animals, they are not goods. Because they are not under the captivity or they are not under the physical control of any person. So they are not held to be goods. Further, regarding human tissues and organs, they are not held to be the goods. And you can also say that by virtue, because the sale of human organs and other commercial dealings, they are prohibited through Human Organ and Transport through Human Organs Transport Act 1989. So they are forbidden. Shares, they are held to be goods. So further, I am not going into the types of goods, because types of goods we will discuss in the next lecture. Further, you will find the third term, that is transfer of property in goods. When we talk about the transfer of property in goods, that means we mean to refer the transfer of property in goods, then we mean to refer the ownership rights. Ownership in the goods. So the object of, because the object of contract of sale, the object is not to delivery. Object of contract of sale is not the delivery of the goods, but it is regarding the transfer of property in goods. So transfer of property in goods, they mean ownership. So we will have to refer in the contract itself, because further when we will go for the agreement to sell and contract of sale, difference between these two, then you will clear cut find when the transfer of property in goods is immediate, then that is contract of sale, and when the contract of goods the transfer of property in goods is not immediate, or it will take place at a future time or subject to some fulfillment of future condition, then that is agreement to sell. So the purpose of contract of sale must be to transfer of property in goods from one person to another, that is from buyer to seller. From seller to buyer. So because according to this act, property means general property in goods rather than special property. So general property means ownership, and special property means rights regarding the property. That means it may be the right of possession also, it may be the right of use also. But whenever this contract of sale happens, then you will find that ownership in property is transferred, that is general property is transferred from seller to the buyer. And maybe special property may also pass, it may also be the intention of parties, but it is not necessary, because you will find that possession may be with the seller, but ownership may also be transferred to the buyer. So that is what you will find. Further, next is price. Price is again one of the most important element of contract of sale. And in price you will find price means the money consideration. Because if there is no valuable consideration, then that is voluntary surrender of goods. And voluntary surrender of goods is not covered under the Sale of Goods Act. Sale of Goods Act, it is regarding the because when there is voluntary transfer of goods, then it is a gift also. So for the sale of goods, you will find contract of sale, you will find that there must be price, and price means money consideration. Because you will find that when their goods are exchanged for goods only, then that is not a contract of sale, but it is a contract of barter or exchange. In the same manner, if transfer is gratuitous, then you will find that is a contract of gift, and that is not a contract of sale. So you will find that this contract of sale, they do not apply to the transaction in the form of contract of sale which is intended to operate by way of mortgage or by way of pledge, charge or other security. They are not covered because the intention is not to apply contract of sale regarding such transactions. Further, you can also say, when we talk about the contract of sale, that then you can say that all the essential elements of contract, they are also present in the contract of sale. That means regarding the section 10 of Indian Contract Act 1872, that is fulfilled. When that is fulfilled, then only you can say essential elements of valid contract are present. That means free consent of the parties also. Parties may be competent also for a lawful consideration, for a lawful purpose, for a lawful object, and they were not expressly declared to be void by the law itself. So then only you can say this is a contract of sale. Now, contract of sale, you will find that contract of sale may be immediate delivery. It may provide for immediate delivery, but it may provide for immediate transfer of property in goods. Transfer of property in goods is different and goods are different. Delivery of goods are different. So it may result in the transfer of property in goods immediately, but it may specify or not that whether the goods are to be immediately transferred, goods are to be immediately delivered, or the payment of price, it may be immediate, it may be deferred also, it may be by installments also, or both. Delivery may be postponed and price may also be postponed. But transfer of property in goods is transferred. When that is transferred, then that is known as contract of sale. And on this point only you can say that this, if you will go, then you will find section 20 relates to sale, while section 21 to 24 relates to agreement to sell. Because when the property in goods is yet to be transferred to the buyer, then that is not a contract of sale, that is an agreement to sell. So on this point we can distinguish between the contract of sale and agreement to sell, because contract of sale is an executed contract, and that means contract plus conveyance, and agreement to sell is executory contract, that means it is to be executed. We have discussed executed and executory contract under Indian Contract Act also. If you have any problem, then you can ask for it. Further, contract of sale, in contract of sale you will find transfer of general property in goods takes place to the buyer from seller, and thereby it creates a right in rem. While agreement to sell, in agreement to sell, transfer of property in goods does not take place, while it creates a right in personam. You can make these 2 points also. I am just discussing in one, that contract of sale is regarding the rights in rem, contract of agreement to sell is regarding the creation of right in personam. That means the rights which are created between buyer and seller only. Further, if in contract of sale, if buyer commits a breach, then seller can sue for the price, because ownership has passed, he cannot sue for the goods. But in agreement to sell, seller can sue for the damages, and because ownership has not passed to the buyer, so he cannot claim goods, because goods are his own. He cannot claim the price, but he can sue for the damages only. Even you will find that in contract of sale, if the seller wrongfully resells the property, then he is guilty of conversion. But in agreement to sell, if he resells the property, then buyer can claim the damages. Further, in contract of sale, if the goods are lost by accident, then the seller's possession, while they are in seller's possession, the loss will be that of the buyer. But in agreement to sell, if the goods are lost, then the loss will be of the seller only. Next, now in contract of sale, if the seller becomes insolvent, then buyer is entitled to recover the goods from the seller through the official assignee. But in in agreement to sell, if the seller becomes insolvent, the buyer has to prove the amount paid to the seller. He will have to prove, and then the official assignee will consider it. Further, if the buyer becomes insolvent, then under contract of sale, you will find the seller must deliver the goods, and he can claim relatively for the price. But in agreement to sell, the seller may refuse to deliver the goods in case if the buyer becomes insolvent. So these are the distinction between contract of sale and agreement to sell, and you will find a number of cases. You can go for Shahdev versus Kubernath, Shahdev Singh versus Kubernath, year 1950, Allahabad 632. You can go for this case and you can ask questions if you are having any problem. You can go for the case of Union of India versus Tarachand, year 1976, MP 101. You can also go for the case of State of Madras versus Gannon, Dunkerley and Company, year 1958, Supreme Court 560. So other than these also, you can go for the cases, and if you have any problem, you may ask for it. Other lectures, we will continue with this series further. Thank you.